All right, guys. Alex Bianchi here with Define Wisdom, Minds of Tomorrow podcast. Today we're here with Mayer Lundner. I am sorry,
Londоner.
Lund
Londoner. You could say Londoner.
Lundner.
You could say like the city Londoner if you want. That works too.
Lundner works. I think I got that. And
All right.
he is a small business owner. He is currently selling blue light glasses. He has found some fame on TikTok where he's trying to sell his blue light glasses on there, get his company going. He is 19 years old, correct?
Yep.
And he has seems to have a pretty bright future ahead of him. So,
I
how's it
hope so.
going? Introduce yourself. Give me maybe a little summary of your company so listeners know what they're getting into, and then we can go from there.
Okay. My name, as he said, Mayer Lundner. Um, my company started, my brand really, it started in last October. So October 2019 was when I started it. And the way I decided I was going to grow it really was to start off on reseller platforms to build up a nice cash flow, and then use that to build out the brand and experiment with it. So it really started as not really a brand. I just sold unbranded products, really blue light glasses on reseller platforms, mostly eBay. And then from there, I grew into building it out as more of a brand, and we're in the beginning stages now with the website and really building it up and getting ready to get ads going. But yeah, it's mostly all the marketing's been really TikTok, which has been great for me, thankfully. Um, but yeah, it's mostly the basic overview of how I got it started. Did not start off with drop shipping. We went straight to ordering in bulk from suppliers, manufacturers in China, making sure to get the proper quality for all of them, and making sure I could check them, and making sure branding was good. Um, and Yeah, it's pretty much where we're at right now with it. Just keeping the eBay going great. Using that as a great marketing source. Actually, eBay is a great marketing source if you can get sales on there, because you send branded stuff and boom, you hope next time people go to your website, and you really can then build out the brand more and more from there.
All right, awesome. So, before the business story, I want to talk about kind of your life in high school. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Like, have you always been hustling, side hustles, all that stuff?
So that started more or less probably right when I entered high school. Um, Before high school, I didn't do too much of that. It mostly started right when I hit high school. Like, I mean, the first thing I did was, I remember, ninth grade. So I was in a dorming school actually, and I brought a slushy machine to the dorm, and I used to just sell slushies out of my dorm room throughout the winter. Not the greatest entrepreneurial spirit right there. Could have found a better time for that market, but started off there with selling slushies out of my dorm room. And then really after that, when I was 11th grade, I was then 16 or so. I got certified as a swim instructor, and I started giving private swimming lessons out of my backyard, and I would make a good like 7 grand in a summer from doing that. So that's really probably my first real business that I got going. Um, and then once I finished high school, so I took like a gap year. I went out of country for like a gap year program. I went for like half the year, and then realized I was not feeling productive out there. Came back home and immediately just got to work with just figuring out what I wanted to do, just learning a ton, taking as many courses as I could. Knew really I wasn't interested in college, because I hated high school, like the school. Ooh, hated that. So I was like, I'm just gonna self educate online, and then went through a lot of different things. I went from sales, marketing, Google Ads. Like I got not an actual Google Ads certification from Google, but I took a very credited Google Ads course online, and actually landed a job with that. And about a month in, I realized like it was not what I was going to do. It was too analytical for me. So I just realized it wasn't what I was going to do. And then I started getting on with trying to start businesses. And I started mismatching socks business to start, to try it out, see what that was like, just to learn. I learned a ton from it. It failed quite quickly, but I learned a ton from it. And that actually business what taught me that I need to get cash flow to really build out a business, because I really didn't have any at that time other than the business itself, which wasn't going to bring in that much cash flow if it was just my website, and marketing costs were going to be a lot. So that's where I went over to eBay and started just doing product research, buying random products from China, and reselling them, and then eventually got onto the blue light glasses, which I've just continued to build out and expand on those.
Awesome. Yeah. So going back to high school, hating high school, and then you mentioned beforehand that you went to three different high schools. So what was your high school journey like? So I mean, you said you dormed. Like, talk about all of that. I mean, social life, grades, good teachers, like AP classes. Were you in good classes like that, or what that situation was?
So I went to very religious schools, actually, Jewish, very religious schools. So we were like, I mean, we're talking 7 a.m. You get 7:45 a.m. was like morning prayers, and then I would go. I mean, there were breaks throughout the day, obviously, plenty of breaks throughout the day. But I mean, we weren't done the day till 10 at night, literally about 10 o'clock at night, 10:15 at night. So it was a pretty crazy schedule over there. And so the first place I went to, I lasted maybe 6, 7 months, somewhere around there. And then I left. That was actually I'm from Cleveland. So that was in Cleveland actually, but it was like 20-minute drive from where I live. So I still dormed there. Um, and I already hated school my whole life, but especially in once I got to high school, and it was just a lot of pressure and all that kind of stuff, and I just, yeah, I did not enjoy it at all. So then I went down to Miami for about a year for school there. Almost got kicked out of that place. For It was mostly religious stuff. I basically nearly got kicked out of the place. And then I came back to Cleveland. And then I went to a school there for 11th and 12th, which was much more relaxed, much better. Teachers there were great. Actually, the truth is, one of the closest teachers that I had that I'm still close with was actually my ninth grade teacher, who helped me through that period there, which I was not happy at all in. Um, but yeah, starting from 11th and 12th grade, it got better. But again, I hated the school system because my brain was always like, what am I going to use this for? Like, where am I using this? Like, that was my brain from early schooling, even. I remember, I think it was right, like seventh grade. I just was like, oh, they're going to push me to the next grade no matter what I do. Like, I could literally nearly fail every single class and they'll still push me to the next grade. So I basically stopped really trying at that point and just like depressed my way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then once I got so for 11th and 12th grade, it was actually a joint system. It was an online school platform, but the teachers in my school were the ones who were behind the platform. They were the ones grading it and everything like that. So it was actually great. I finished high school about 2 months early, and I got to then get my for 12th grade, and I got to get my swimming lesson business up already at that point. So it was an extra like month and a half or so of business and doing what I really enjoyed, because just school, I came in and I basically just learned how to cheat well. That's basically what happened, because I realized, like, especially with math, like I failed 11th grade math. 11th grade math, I failed it. And I was like, okay, I'm not a math brain. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? So it's like, okay, if I really work hard to just learn the basics of the math, I can use those fancy online calculators, and I'll kind of know what I'm talking about a bit to be able to figure out the answers and put what I did for my work. Um, and so I basically used that. Actually, a funny thing was, we were the first year they used the system, so there were certain assignments that were given to us on Microsoft Word documents, and there were no cheat sheets, like answer sheets for the teachers. So, and everyone was taking like different classes, so I might have been only one of maybe two guys taking the courses I was taking for like the math or whatever. And so if it was like a 4 question Microsoft Word document that was like 4 questions, 25 points each, and I didn't know two of them, I would just delete two of them and put it as 2 questions for 50 points each and hand it in. I was waiting like after I'd graduated. When was I going to get the phone call from them? What on earth did you do to these Microsoft Word documents? But never came, so we're good. But yeah, it was kind of just like a lack of productivity felt just throughout the entire high school. That's really what it was. And then just the summers running my business, I loved that. But yeah, thankfully, once I got out of high school, things went a lot better.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like in the religious school? Because my stepbrother, who I'm very close with, he goes to a Christian school near me, and he's actually talked about how going to a religious school has like stomped the religion out of him. Have you?
Yes.
I don't know if you had that personal experience. Or you saw that with kids around you. What was that dynamic
Mhm.
life with the religious
So
school?
yes, it can be. What happens is if you're someone who doesn't like school to begin with, if you go to a school where you're, you know what, one second, let me just quickly here, sorry, just turn off my vibrate. If you go to a religious school and you don't like school to begin with, you have to understand a large portion of the day, just going to be teaching pure religious studies and they're going to be pushing things on you. Like what I almost got kicked out of my school in 10th grade for was having MP3 players and radios in the dorm, literally, because there was no non-Jewish music allowed. So that's what I was nearly kicked out for. Besides for the point that I really wasn't doing anything in class, literally. Um, but it was yeah, it was crazy. I remember I brought a oh, forget phones. Oh my gosh, forget phones. Like we were allowed to have they had phones on the wall that you could use, and other than that, we were only allowed to have like dumb phones, like flip phones, and we were only allowed to have them once a week, like Friday. For the whole Friday, we had them. We had to give them back. Like, and you have to spend the entire morning up until right, starting from 7:45 in the morning up until about 2 o'clock or so is all religious studies. Was all religious studies, and for a guy who just hated school, I was going crazy, and it literally I wasn't religious for about a half a year to a year about, which was when I was getting kicked out, which was when I was almost kicked out of that school. And then I went to a much more relaxed school that let us just be ourselves and grow at our own pace. And then I was able to then go more back to religion and actually enjoy it and do it the way that it was for me. Because a lot of the time they try to put you in a mold and not everyone fits in that mold, not even close to it. And so thankfully I was able and I'm the type of person when these kind of molds got pushed on me, I was just looking to break out. Like that's all I want to do. I just want to fight back. Um, and so thankfully when I went to that school in 11th and 12th grade, they were much more relaxed and we were, able to grow the way I wanted to. Um, but yeah, religious schools can really stump the religion out of people. Absolutely, I've seen it. I have many friends who are no longer religious, and a lot of it is from teachers who just got mad at them for like beyond stupidity. I'm talking like for wearing colored socks to school because you're supposed to wear black socks with the uniform or whatever it is, and they just harass. And yeah, some people just snap. Some
Mm-hmm.
people absolutely snap in these places. I've watched it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, again, I'm not saying all religious schools are bad,
Mm-hmm.
not at all. But there will be religious teachers that can be bad, that don't belong in their position. Sometimes they married their way into that position. Sometimes, there's different ways they got in there. And sometimes it's just the kid doesn't belong in that school. For the right kid, it could be a good school, but for other kids, it could be just
Mm-hmm.
terrible.
And public school was never an option for you?
No, no, and the system and community I'm in, it was very, we're very religious. Again, I pray
Mm-hmm.
3 times a day, um, every morning. I still go to a morning school, not a school. It's more just like where we have a teacher there, and then as a group of guys, we go and we learn. We have religious studies, but it's not like really a school
Mm-hmm.
per se.
All right. Yeah, so then kind of transitioning into the business, you went over how you got into blue light glasses. You kind of went over starting your business with just trying different products out and eventually landing on blue eyeglasses. There's a lot of research and science. There's a big scientific aspect to blue light glasses, though. So, what was it like doing the research for that? Had you been exposed to it previously, or did you just find it and then dive headfirst in?
So it's actually a funny thing. When I was in high school, and I was working on my computer all day when we had online school, I would get eye strain, and headaches when I would work on my computer a lot, especially reading through stuff on it. We actually went to an eye doctor and they just like gave me eye drops, but nothing really helped. Um, and it's not necessarily the blue light. I can get into that, but um, so when I was going through the different things that I was attempting to sell, on eBay and stuff like that, actually my older brother, got a pair, and he literally, I remember he like came home from college or whatever it was, and he just like was wearing them. I was like, you know what? I wonder if I could sell those online. So I went to it was my regular product research, which was I would go on AliExpress, um, order five of the product, and then I would see if it would resell. I would see if it would sell well on eBay, and if it sold, then I'd order, in bulk and actually get it properly, get them nice. But doing the research on the actual science behind it only started once I was getting to the point of building out my brand. Before then, because I'll tell you a big difference when you're selling stuff on reseller platforms, you're marketing to an algorithm. You're not really marketing to people. There's a reason why on my website the titles for the products is going to be Walker or Oliver or whatever the name of the product is, just like a person name, because then we're marketing to people. We want to give it like something that rings in their brain. When I'm on a reseller platform, I'm marketing to the platform. It's going to be just a bunch of stacked keywords that really don't make sense in a coherent sentence. So I'm just putting it up, and if the people are looking for it, they'll get it there. They'll find it. And they'll get it. I didn't really have to do much research at that point. Once I was at the point of building my brand, that's when I started really doing research into it, finding studies and going into that. And it's actually funny. The first eye doctor that I even messaged was from TikTok, TikTok eye doc. So he actually, right, he like or followed, I think, right, he followed me, and then I was like, oh, let me message him, get some information from him. I've spoken with a guy who's actually big on YouTube, Dr. Eye Health. I spoke with him a bit, just really making sure that I'm getting the newest information and the best information from people. And really, yeah, I would sit there a day, just a few days straight, just looking at studies, learning about really how they work, why they won't work, what are myths about them, really, because the market itself. There was a lot of really just a lot of falsehoods going around in the market. So I want to make sure that I was really transparent and honest about everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, makes perfect sense. How so you didn't go to college, you chose not to go to college, and then you started different businesses. What was that like with your family, the people around you, kind of diverting on your own path and the support system there?
So actually, my dad was very supportive of that. Happened that he was actually trying to push me to not go to college. Um, he went to college, but he's seen throughout just the people he speaks to and everything like that, and he's like, unless you're going for something that really needs a degree, engineer, doctor, whatever it is, unless you really want to go for that, there's no real need for it, and you're just going to waste money. And he had already seen my entrepreneurial spirit or whatever you want to call it, in the businesses that I had run, and said, just go try and research online, figure it out. And so immediately I knew, just I got to find courses. And so that's where I went, online, start taking Udemy courses. And that's where that journey of, going sales, marketing, Google AdWords, there was a whole host of other stuff within that. Um, that's really where that journey started. But I've had some people throughout say to me, oh, you should still get a college degree as a safety net. Um, my grandfather's actually very pro college. I haven't really had conversations with him about it, but I just know that, yeah, he's quite pro college. Um, but overall, I haven't had that much push against me, other than teachers here and there will, like, former teachers and stuff like that will be like, oh, you should go to college and stuff like that, and that's mostly just because they're in the education system and it's mostly all they know. So, you know, That's really the most backlash I felt, but I haven't really felt that much from people.
All right, that's awesome. And then you're living in your parents' house, I presume.
Yep, everything out of my bedroom,
Yep. And
all out of
they
it.
don't have any issues. They're supporting you as long as you
No,
need.
yeah, they happen to be. Yeah, no, they're very supportive of my business stuff.
That's
Like
awesome.
my dad weirdly trusts me a lot. Like he'll ask me advice on certain stuff. Like
Hmm.
I can try and help you, but
Yeah,
let's we'll figure it out.
that's awesome. I don't have as much of an option. My mom is like, either you're going to college or you're paying rent, and I'm like, well, shit, mom, thanks.
So
But
right, so my parents saw immediately, like, especially when I started bringing in money a bit, and so my parents want me to really just sit there and take all the money I make and put it right back in the business. They want to get me going. That's really, they're basically using this as a college period for me. They're basically
mhm,
saying some people go to college for 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is. This is your college. This is what you're going to learn. And I've made sure to get mentors, obviously to learn from along the way.
mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so then, it started. The company started in October, or a few months away. Have there been any ups and downs? Because from what I gather, started with eBay, grew consistently there, figured out your stuff on eBay, went into the website development, building the brand on TikTok, making TikTok videos, grew there. Seems like a very steady growth plan. No particular ups or
It has
down.
been a lot of ups. The few downs I've had, I'm the type that I just like figure stuff out on the fly. So I've been able to get through rough patches. Coronavirus itself was a point where I was out of stock of a lot of products. I had to really flip around, like to get my website launched. I had to spend north of $1,000 to be able to get it launched about 3 weeks ago, rather than getting it launched within the past day or two, because there were a lot of glasses I didn't have in stock. There were cases, the glasses cases that I want to use. I didn't have those in stock because China was shut down. So I was out of stock a lot of products. I'm just starting to get back in stock of glasses. I'm finally able to order from my manufacturers again, to get the glasses. But that was right there. That was a bit of a rough patch. Thankfully, I had enough, cash flow to still be able to make it through, but it definitely was a little lower. And I'm excited for when I get, all the glasses. And again, I'm going to be, up and even more. Um, Another rough patch was, my stupid self decided not to go intensely into researching regulations around blue light glasses, and turns out they are considered a medical device by the FDA, which means I had to be registered as a medical device importer with the FDA, which costs between $5,000 and $10,000 a year. So, and I obviously did not have that money to just go and throw in there. I just didn't have that. So, um, what ended up happening, I had certain, and I also didn't look into the tariff stuff, of course. So I had a shipment come in, which it was got to be around $500-600 worth of glasses, and the FDA stopped it. And I was like, oh gosh. So it ended up being great because I learned about the FDA regulations at that moment. And then also, I ended up not getting tariffed on it because it got sent back to China, and I was able to get my money back through the platforms I used. At that time, it was the H-Gate was the platform I used to buy it on, and I was able to get the money back because my manufacturer also wasn't FDA certified. So I ended up being able to pin the blame on him, and then I was good. Um, and then I made sure all my orders were, number one, under $250, so I didn't get tariffed. And number two was I actually got connected with a what's called an initial importer. Um, and mostly what they do is they're for larger companies that don't want to make every single one of their warehouses an initial importer. So what they do is they have warehouses all over the country, and they're all initial importers, and then large companies will send tons of packages to them, and they'll send them out to their different warehouses. But I was able to, thankfully, the guy was very nice, to me. He actually, like, he himself was an entrepreneur style guy, so he wanted to help me out. And so we worked out a thing where it was basically, I think, like 20% of the unit value, which is basically always $250. So I basically pay an extra $50 per shipment, and they take in my orders for me and then send it to me. So thankfully I got that set up. Those were the biggest real rough patches along the way. Other than that, I love the problem solving aspect of the business. To be honest, I love that. Like being creative with the problem solving, I love that. So haven't been too many rough patches really with that um, at this point. Especially when you have a base cash flow going, you always have that constant flow to fall back on. So then, okay, this didn't work. Well, now let's test out this, and that's what's really important about having that cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So, where do you see your company going in the future? What are you doing? Are you, other products, scaling the blue light glasses, keeping the TikTok stuff going? What's the strategy?
So the next moves. So there's obviously the constant expansion of products, meaning styles. So constantly going to be expanding with styles and blue light glasses. Going to bring different levels to the website, is in quality levels. Based on what your price point is. Um, as well as obviously a lot of new marketing campaigns. Right now, it's just been all TikTok marketing, really. But I'm going to start really going into different paid advertising, marketing, and testing that stuff out. Possibly branch out as well into a sunglasses business at some point. I cannot say when, I have no idea, but definitely thinking of branching out to that at some point as well. Adding prescription lenses as an option to them. Obviously, right now they're just non-prescription lenses just to help people with, issues with blue light, but adding a prescription option to them as well. And really just continue building and building and building and really create a very strong brand around it, of just transparency and, customer service and that kind of thing, and being trendy. A major emphasis on the transparency, because if you actually go through a lot of my TikTok videos, a lot of the comments here and there will be like, "Oh, blue light's a scam, blue light's this," and I make sure on my website to highlight these things of why, what is a scam, what's not a scam, and give proofs behind each thing of whether or not they are a scam or not a scam. There was a big piece put out by BBC, I think it was, that was massive, that just everyone was into, because it was just like debunking blue light glasses. And it was because a lot of these, companies were making um, outlandish claims about the glasses when just they weren't true. And that's where a lot of just lack of trust came into the industry. And I was like, okay, let's really work on that right now, because that's what people need to see.
Awesome. So walk me through the go into detail. What are the outlandish claims and what are the genuine claims? Because I found that it does help me with my Eyestrain. Is that placebo? What's the
So
science?
we'll go with most confirmed to least confirmed, or just outright false. So the most confirmed aspect of them is insomnia, which is having a difficult time falling asleep. That is the most confirmed. Basically, the studies behind that show that your brain runs on what's called the circadian rhythm, which is the melatonin levels, which obviously, if you have higher melatonin levels, easier to fall asleep, lower melatonin levels, more difficult to sleep. It's actually regulated by blue light. The largest source of blue light comes from the sky, actually. It comes from the sun, comes from the sky. And so what happens is when you wake up and your eyes, get the blue light and shined into them, um, your melatonin levels in your brain drop, and now you're more awake now. And so what happens is when people are in their bed at night, I think a big study they did was they had people reading on paper from just the paper book, and then they had other people reading from a Kindle. And they noticed that melatonin levels in the brain went down about 30%, I believe, for about after an hour of reading. So a lot of us are on screens or in our beds on our phones for could be an hour before you go to sleep. And what ends up happening is, because the blue light is being emitted from your screen, your melatonin levels are dropping by 30%. It gets much more difficult to fall asleep at that point. So that's the most confirmed claim. Now for the controversial one is eye strain. and headaches that people get from looking at screens. And this is a very controversial topic, because there's no real intense evidence either way. There are some studies that show yes, there are some studies that show no, and it's a very complicated area, and there haven't been really any great studies done that would be considered very credible. Like, again, there are some studies done, but they won't be on that big of a, not that many people, and the controls won't be that great. And what ends up happening is you come out with an outcome, but how factual is that outcome? Um, and so what ends up happening, because it's very debated there, you can then look to anecdotal evidence, which would be people who try them, guys like me and you who just try them and say, do they work? And that's mostly going to come from reviews online and stuff like that. And there as well, it's split. You see it for some people, it helps them a ton. Some people, it doesn't help them. And there hasn't been a rhyme or reason to it yet. There just isn't enough research. So can we say it's a placebo effect? Maybe. A theory I've come up with is, personally for me, and I'm sure if you've seen it, is a lot of the time when you're looking at a screen, it's brighter than everything around the screen a lot of the time. And so what ends up being is sometimes that brightness can like strain your eyes a bit. And so the blue light glasses dim the screen in a bit of a way that makes it easier for you to look at the screen and not have that brightness in your eyes, as well as not dimming it to the point where it's difficult to see the screen. Like, a lot of time, if we dim our screens, it's very difficult to read the screen. But they dim it in a way, it's like a yellowish tint sometimes, that makes it that it's not difficult to see the screen. That's something that I've kind of noticed, but I don't know that for sure. So it is a very debated topic, and that's why I say in my books. I say, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, and optometrists are starting to recommend it to their patients, saying, listen, it's worth a shot. They're not that expensive. My brand's like between 15 and $30 for a pair, so it's not that expensive. They're like, go ahead, see if it works for you, try it out. And that's where we're at really with the research on the Eyestrain. Now, the real falsehood that came out was what's called macular degeneration, which is a very common form of eyesight loss that people get. And the study that was used to say that it worked was they took rats and they put a very concentrated blue light right in front of their eyes for hours, way more than your screen is going to emit. And they then went, and it was also right up to their eye, and then they went and looked to see if there was retinal damage, which is basically this the back of your eye. They checked to see if there was retinal damage, and they saw there was retinal damage. So basically they said from there, we know that it's going to cause macular degeneration, which people looked at that study and first like, what? That's the most ridiculous thing ever. Number two, basically the most credible study we have on that is towards the other way, which is they just went mathematically and they took the amount of blue light coming from the sun, and they said, listen, the blue light coming from the sun, we know that to be that it doesn't cause macular degeneration. So if we can take that amount and then calculate it with the amount of blue light you're going to get from your screen, we can prove whether or not it could even cause it or not. And it wasn't even close. So they're basically just like, mathematically, it's impossible. So that's really where a big lot, you'll see on different websites, they'll say macular degeneration, cataracts, different stuff like that. And that stuff is completely false. So those are really the three main things that people talk about, and that really run the blue light glasses industry. And that's really the research I've mostly done on that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's interesting to hear. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like they're spreading in popularity, so at some point someone's going to do research on it.
Yeah, I think there is going to be more and more research over the next few years as they get more and more popular. And I'm very curious. I'm excited to see the research. Even if it goes against the blue light glasses, I'm still excited for that research, just for personally.
Yeah, and then kind of last question I have here. You mentioned the international travel that you did. So and then you wound up leaving early. So what was that like traveling internationally? Personally, for me, I've been to Argentina a lot throughout my life. My family's from Argentina, and I find that going there, getting the perspective of a different culture, the way that different people live in Argentina, it's often poorer than it might be in America. I think it's great for myself, my brain, everything. So just talk about what your experience was with that.
Yeah. So again, it was a religious gap year program. So it was basically we were pretty much doing now instead of it being half of a day religious studies and then the other half secular and English, math, that studies. It was full day religious studies, and it was relaxed. It was in Israel, and it was a bit of a you'd go out at night, you could party, and throughout most of the day was all religious studies, and it just got to a point where I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm not really doing the whole day of religious studies. I just wasn't interested enough to do it for the whole day. I'm cool with half the day, but the whole day I was just not interested enough for that. And so I was going out and partying a bit at night, but like it got to a point where a few months in, I was like, what am I doing with my life? I feel so ridiculously unproductive. And I think the moment I think I scrolled on I refreshed the YouTube page, the YouTube homepage, and no new videos came, was the moment I said, we got to get back to the States. This is too far. And so at that point, I spoke with one of the teachers. I was like, I think I should go home. He actually said to me, he's like, you're not really being productive here. What would you do if you went home? And I was like, okay, I'll come back to you on that one. And I figured out a plan, and we booked a ticket. And then I came back to him 2 days later, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm heading home in about a week. And he's like, what? The funny thing is, this was one of the like assistant principals. The principal was completely sideblinded by this. So he had no idea. He like when he found out, he was like, "What? What just happened here?" So that was a pretty fun one. And then yeah, immediately when I got back to the U.S., I just boom went to work, and it was amazing. The second I got back to the U.S., life just went boom from there.
Awesome. Good to hear. So, I don't really have too many more questions. I don't know if you have anything that you want to leave off, anything you had in mind that you wanted to say. Obviously, for people listening, all his information is down in the description. I'll grab that from you after the episode. So yeah, any parting thoughts for the listeners?
So I'd say one just practical thing if you're a teenager or a young adult and you want to get involved um, in buying and selling products, the number one thing I tell you to do is the way I started my eBay and went up was I would do product research. And the way you do product research with eBay is a great thing to go on because you can sell anything basically on there, and you don't have to go through the regulations of like Amazon and stuff like that. It's very easy, just click post up. What you do is the for a beginner way to go onto it is you go to, let's say, AliExpress. You go to the different categories and you filter it by orders. Once you see once you see what the top products are, and you want to focus on more small, lightweight products. For example, I started off with phone chargers, small, lightweight products because those are easy to ship. And so from there, if you see products you like, you go you go back to eBay, and there's actually a research tool called Therapy. You can use that. You can also go to the eBay and filter it by sold items when you look up that product and see how much of the product is sold. And if it's a high selling product and you think you could price it comparatively well, what you do is you'd order about 3 to 5 of that product. So a small amount, so a very small investment, only like $10 or even less. Um, and then you post it on eBay and see if you can sell it for a profit. And the way you test to see if you can sell for a profit is then you would actually go to the wholesale and bulk ordering websites like DHgate or Alibaba, and you'd see what price can you get the product for there. And then when you sell it on eBay, you'd price it at what your profit margins would be if you were going to be getting the product from Alibaba. So let's say you're ordering it from AliExpress and it's costing $3 for the product. Well, you can get it for $1.50 when you order it in bulk. So make sure you price it out for the $1.50 so that you can test that out. And from there, you just test out as many products as you can, and you're inevitably going to hit some products that are going to really help you build and get revenue coming in, and you can continue to test from there. That's really what I'd start off with, because it's a very low risk, high reward strategy. There, you're spending $10, and you have the opportunity at that point to go and shoot that up to now, thousands of dollars. I've done my blue light glasses. I started off, I ordered 5 pairs, and they sold out within 2 days or so, and boom, it went off from a $10 investment into, well over $15,000 in sales at this point. So it's a great, very low risk, high reward strategy that does not cost a lot of money to start with, and it's great learning for buying and selling products, and gets you into the supply chain of buying products from manufacturers and reselling them yourself. So it's a great way to get into things. So if anyone's trying to figure out what to do, that's a great place to start.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. So that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff down below. And then be sure to follow him on TikTok, Instagram. Do you have a YouTube channel or?
I do not. It's more like a private YouTube channel just for videos for my website. But yeah.
All right, then check out his website too. That'll be linked down below if you want to buy some blue light glasses. I actually got to buy a pair, so I'm gonna be buying a pair soon because the pair that I had broke. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were like $10 on Amazon for 2, so I'm not too butthurt
Well,
about it. Yeah, but
not too much of a loss there.
no. Thanks, guys. Peace.